Hello and thanks for joining us for another edition of Northwest Newsweek. The Candlelight vigil was held in Nipigon last Sunday to honor the late Alyssa Turnbull. The 26-year-old's remains were recently discovered by police, putting an end to years of searching. Turnbull was last seen in Nipigon in March of 2020. The main suspect connected to her death is deceased. Two other Nipigon men, Brian and Nick Seuss, admitted to interfering with her remains. They received a sentence of time served after a plea deal in which OPP were led to Turnbull's body in Kaministiquia. For most of the past 3.5 years, the search efforts were centered around Nipigon. The vigil was held with Anishinaabe songs and healing circle. Organizers say it was heartwarming to see so many people come out on a cold evening, with roughly 45 people from the Nipigon area gathering to pay their respects.
I believe Nipigon was devastated for the last 3 years, 7 months, and you know, for this to happen, I believe there's closure for family and for us.
There's been a black cloud over this town. I mean, obviously it's lessened a little bit as time has gone on, but it's this kind of thing doesn't happen in a small town. You hear it a lot when you're on TV and stuff, but when it does actually happen in your small town, it's very disturbing and shocking.
Mayor Kuko says small towns often have a dark side and that addressing issues like crime and drugs needs to be a top priority. In a written statement, Turnbull's family expressed their gratitude for all the heartfelt condolences they've received, but they now ask people to respect their privacy due to the pain they say will likely take more than a lifetime to heal from, if that is even possible. Snow and freezing rain has led to several highway closures and lane closures on Wednesday, mainly due to mishaps involving transport trucks. This one occurred just west of Uppsala Wednesday morning. The transport jackknifed on Highway 17 and caused the closure of the westbound lane. OPP were on scene to allow for alternating traffic, and the highway fully reopened there that afternoon. A similar accident occurred on Highway 102 near Mud Lake Road, and transport slid off the roadway and traffic was delayed until the rig could be removed. And Highway 17 west of Kenora also had alternating traffic to allow for the removal of a transport that lost control and rolled over into the ditch near Clearwater Bay. There were also highway delays around Terrace Bay. The Ontario government is partnering with Anishinaabe to help protect caribou in the region. Environment and Conservation Minister Andrea Kangin was at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park Monday morning. She announced nearly $1 million to support an initiative near Pickle River to recover the local Boreal Caribou population. Jessica Clement has the details.
Efforts to conserve and recover the Boreal Caribou population in the Northwest continues. On Monday, Ontario's Environment Minister Andrea Kangin was at Sleeping Giant Provincial Park to announce a partnership between the province and the First Nation near Marathon.
The Ontario government has finalized an agreement with Pickle Anishinaabe First Nation, investing nearly $1 million to support a multi-year initiative to recover the local Boreal Caribou population.
The project will be led by Bigdigon Anishinaabe, formerly known as Pickle River First Nation, who will work in collaboration with environmental and wildlife experts, the federal government, First Nations, and private sector partners to establish a self-sustaining population of Boreal caribou along Lake Superior. Kangin noted that the investment will help study predatory animals of the caribou, as well as other environmental factors.
It's not just monitoring the caribou and being able to survey how many caribou we have. Is our strategy or is our plan working to restore the population? But also look at other factors. Ice, for example, too. Whenever we know in terms of climate change, as if ice is going to thaw or freeze over, that impacts the movement of our predators. Wolves, for example, as we've heard in the past, but also other predators as well. So all of that combined will help us on this particular agreement and strategy.
This partnership project is funded by the Caribou Conservation Stewardship Program, which is part of a $29 million funding announcement made in Thunder Bay back in March by former Environment and Conservation Minister David Piccini. Bigdigon Chief Duncan Michano says this recent investment is a great opportunity.
You need to hire people to do it. You need to buy resources. You need to travel. So you need money to do these things, and this allows us to put a plan in place and work together with MECP, work together with other Anishinaabe communities to try to make sure that the caribou don't disappear.
Michano adds that raising awareness is also crucial to the Boreal Caribou's population.
There's people around who have no idea that caribou even existed in our landscape, prior to them being born. People of Canada and Ontario need to understand the importance of making sure that caribou don't disappear.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
There's some good news coming to kidney patients in the Dryden area, as Kenora Rainy River MPP Greg Rickford announced this week that the Dryden Regional Health Center has been approved to provide dialysis. It's a life-saving treatment for those suffering from kidney failure, and now those patients won't have to travel 4 hours to Thunder Bay Regional. Josh Morano reports.
Since 2019, the hospital in Dryden has been working to get a dialysis treatment center. With renal services in Sioux Lookout, Kenora, Fort Francis, all at maximum capacity, Dryden patients are usually forced to travel to Thunder Bay for treatment. Dialysis requires patients to attend the regional hospital 3 times in a 7-day span. MPP Greg Rickford made the announcement at a virtual news conference along with officials from DRHC and Thunder Bay Regional.
We understand that patients in the Dryden area in particular need convenient care, drive up to 4 hours multiple times a week to receive dialysis treatment in other communities. We're very grateful for the support that we get from other communities. We're so proud to deliver on this initiative. It's a reflection of the city of Dryden, its community, its resilience.
The next steps are renovations and design planning for the 4 dialysis chairs that will be installed at the Dryden Hospital. Rickford says a 1,000 square foot renovation will make room within the facility, with more chairs planned down the road. Dryden Regional Health Center President Doreen Armstrong-Ross is hoping for a fast-moving project, but she doesn't know how long it will take until patients can receive renal care.
There's a lot to be done, as you know, in these projects, so we'll have a better feel for that in a while, but we understand the need and certainly want to get this done.
The project is tracking for the next couple of years. As I said, closer to the lower end of what constitutes a couple of years.
The move also affects those in places where the dialysis treatment centers are at capacity. Thunder Bay Regional Executive Vice President Adam Vinette says it's not just important for Dryden residents to have the service closer to home, but it also opens up space at other dialysis locations in northwestern Ontario.
Our regional capacity is nearing 100% in Kenora, Sioux Lookout, and Fort Francis. So the beds in Dryden are a welcome piece. Thunder Bay's capacity is around 90% at current moment, with long wait lists in our regional area. So this is great news and a great opportunity for us to have care closer to home.
Rickford was hesitant to disclose an exact dollar figure for the cost of the project, but says it's in the several $million range and expects the number to evolve as the project continues. Josh Morano, TBT News.
It's a big step forward for the proposed new mine in the Marathon area, as the province has accepted a closure plan for Generation Mining's Palladium copper project, which the company calls a major milestone in the permitting process. The proposed mine would be located near the Marathon Airport. The project would include 3 open pits, an ore processing plant, tailings, and mine rock storage facilities. The mine is projected to have a lifespan of 13 years. The closure permit, which details the decommissioning and rehabilitation process, was one of the final permits remaining, with the rest expected by the end of this year. Company officials say that the permitting process is currently outpacing their financing process. The final decision to begin construction of the mine will depend on identifying the sources to fully fund the project. And development is already booming in the Marathon area in anticipation of the mine. More on that after the break. Development is booming in Marathon and Bigtigong-Nishnabeg First Nation, and both communities are preparing for the impact the new mine could have on the area. Lee Noonan has more.
It's a wooded hillside right now, but as Generation PGM's proposed Palladium copper mine inches closer to becoming reality, the town of Marathon and Bigtigong-Nishnabeg are already preparing for the population boom it could bring. Bigtigong CEO Debbie Boucher says there's more than $100 million in development projects happening there now, largely prompted by the plans for the new mine.
We have about 1,200 members, about 500 living community. And we knew that there was an opportunity for our members to come back for employment, but we didn't have the facilities to be able to accommodate homes.
Development in Bigtigong includes long-needed facilities like a new elementary school and water treatment plant, as well as new facilities including a lifestyle center, a cultural center, a rink, and major improvements to the powwow grounds. And of course, new housing. 6 units are under construction, 10 lots are being developed, and planning has begun for a new subdivision.
They were all components of building a community that would give our members the opportunity to do anything, from recreation to learning to, to social services. But we have to line it up so that when the mine is operational, we are ready for our members to come back and reside here.
In Marathon, a new 30-unit Indigenous housing complex has started taking applications for residency, and a 50-unit nonprofit housing complex is slated for completion next year. Those buildings will address existing needs, but the town is also looking ahead to an influx of new residents if the mine goes ahead. They have prepared a 105-lot subdivision for construction and are actively soliciting developers.
Am I going to say that there's going to be 105 homes built right away? Probably not, Lee. But the reality is it'll be a phased program. So if there's 10 or 20 homes needed, the developer will come in and develop 10 or 20 or 30 homes. But the site will be developed accessible for the whole 105. If somebody wants to come in and develop 105 homes, that's great. I'm encouraging anybody out there listening to come and give us a call.
Both communities are excited about the economic and population growth the mine could support, but recognize that not all mine workers will move to the area. Bigtigong is developing programs aimed at countering some of the harms they fear could come with camps of temporary workers.
Could it potentially bring more drugs? Could it potentially bring people who aren't familiar with our community, who maybe don't have that interaction with our people in a good way? So what are the things that we need to do to try to protect their interests?
Lee Noonan, TBT News.
The Treaty 3 Police Service has its first female chief of police. Cheryl Gervais was chosen by the Treaty 3 Police Board to replace Kai Liu, who announced his retirement a few months ago. Gervais brings over 20 years of experience to the role, and she says she's hoping to see a lot of growth in the organization over the next few years. Jessica Clement has the details.
It's a new chapter for the Treaty 3 Police Service, as it welcomed and appointed its first female chief of police, Cheryl Gervais, last week.
I'm very excited, and I have to admit it's still kind of sinking in.
The decision comes after the retirement of previous police chief Kai Liu in August of this year. Gervais has been with the police service for over 20 years and says during that time she's been able to assume a number of leadership positions.
I was initially hired by my home community of Shoal Lake 39 under the First Nations policing program. And it just so happened when I finished police college in April 2003, Treaty 3 Police Service was taking over. And so I worked on the front line for Treaty 3 Police Service. And then I moved into our crime unit. And from there, I just progressed through the ranks.
Gervais hopes she'll be able to lead the organization until she retires and says she's looking towards a lot of growth within the next few years.
Something that I would like to, bring to our police service is also recognizing how our uniform membership and our civilian membership, what they bring to the table.
Gervais says with policing being a male-dominated industry, her being the first female in the chief position is a big milestone for the Treaty 3 Police Service. And it's something that should be celebrated.
And I'm saying this on behalf of other female leaders within policing, is we tend not to want to celebrate that because we don't want to take away from the fact that, I am here based on merit. And going back to myself as a young, Indigenous youth, growing up in a small community, I think I have that responsibility to celebrate that and to highlight that, to show, maybe that one girl today that what is possible.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Ontario's Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery was in Pickle Lake on Tuesday for the grand opening of a Service Ontario location there. The Pickle Lake location could become a model for other small communities. The Service Ontario outlet had been closed since May of 2020. It was reopened in the municipal offices thanks to a creative partnership with the township. Rather than Service Ontario employees, municipal staff have been trained by the agency. They can provide most of the same services available at any other location alongside municipal services like issuing fire permits.
We could be setting a new standard here, a prototype for Service Ontario partnerships that could work in other parts of the province. And this could not have been achieved without your leadership and your strong commitment and team approach.
This office will serve from having to travel 3 hours or more one way to renew their driver's licenses, their health cards, their vehicle registrations, and their Ontario photo ID card.
Ontario Pickle Lake, thank you for the work, the advocacy that and trying to keep the services going for not only Pickle Lake but also Mississauga and also the communities, the First Nations that are north of here.
One of Canada's most bizarre mysteries is getting new attention from police. A would-be robber held up a bank in Kenora back in 1973. He'd almost made his getaway when a police officer shot him, setting off a homemade bomb in front of hundreds of spectators. It is the subject of a W5 documentary, The Mystery Bomber, airing Sunday at noon on CKPR Thunder Bay. It can also be seen on the W5 YouTube channel. Adrian Gabriel reports on the new evidence that police have discovered.
It was a cool May afternoon when a masked man walked into a bank in downtown Kenora, just 50 kilometers east of the Manitoba border. He was carrying 2 guns and something that looked like a wired-up clothespin in his mouth. He said it would set off a bomb if anything happened to him.
Dead man switch, the name comes from if you release it, you're a dead man.
Joe Ralco was a witness to the robbery and wrote a book about what happened.
The bank robber walks out the doors. What happens the moment the doors open?
1,000 people standing around, and you could have heard a pin drop.
Okay, now they're coming back out again.
And then it's absolute chaos.
The bomb has gone off.
A police officer shot the robber, triggering the bomb. Body parts and singed money filled the air. Police circulated this sketch and quickly found a name and address. But here's the twist.
It was a fake name. It was a fake address.
The bomber's identity was unknown, and 50 years later, it's still a mystery. So W5 investigated whether there is DNA evidence that could be tested. And then a last-minute twist. Police confirmed that they are once again actively investigating the case and have found DNA evidence.
Would you like to know who the Kenora bomber was?
Who wouldn't like to know who the Kenora bomber was? I mean, we would all like to know.
I would. I'd like a little bit of closure. Right now, it's some ghost came into town and blew himself up.
But finding the bomber's identity may have to wait. The OPP say searching for a DNA match is under review, but their priorities lie with cases that could bring comfort to families of victims. The problem in this case, the bomber has no known family because nobody knows who he is. Adrian Gabriel, CTV News, Kenora, Ontario.
We'll be back after the break with a story about a 5-year-old who's getting some attention from his love of Terry Fox. Well, Halloween is over and the Barbie dresses and Spider-Man suits have been packed away, but one local kid won't be hanging up his costume. Wyatt E. Luke first learned about Terry Fox last year at his Terrace-based school, and now his devotion to his hero is year-round. Lee Noonan has more.
Terry Fox ran his Marathon of Hope nearly 40 years before Wyatt E. Luke was born, but he's still an inspiration to the 5-year-old.
I got the wig and I taped my pen to look like I have a wig, and then I have shorts than a shirt.
Okay, and why are you dressed like
Red runners.
and your red runners? And why are you dressed like Terry Fox, Wyatt?
Because he's my hero.
Wyatt's Halloween costume caught the attention of Connie Cowling, senior travel counselor at the Terry Fox Information Center. She invited Wyatt up to the center to present him with a little gift bag and for a chat about all things Terry Fox.
Wyatt knew everybody in Terry's family. He told me all his family's name, and Doug, who drove him across the country, his best friend. And we talked a little bit about Terry's journey across the country, but he already knew all the answers. I didn't even have to share too much. So he's quite knowledgeable in his Terry things.
Do you know where he started running?
Newfoundland, and he dipped, but the start that he dipped his foot and went to the ocean.
Yeah, and do you know where he finished running?
Here.
Wyatt first learned about the Canadian hero last year when his school participated in the annual Terry Fox Run. Wyatt has raised about $1,200 for cancer research over the past 2 years.
It means a lot that people still care 30 years, 40 years later, and the little ones that are just learning about him now in school to know that his legacy will live on forever.
Cowling says she's seen hundreds of thousands of people from all over the world passing through here, but never anyone quite so young with quite so much passion for Terry Fox. Lee Noonan, TBT News.
Wednesday was Indigenous Veterans Day. The event was held at Lakehead University, recognizing the contributions of Indigenous veterans, featuring a number of powerful speeches and songs. Students, faculty, and members of the public were all in attendance to honor those who fought for our country. Many of the speeches focused on the Indigenous community not being recognized fully for their contributions, despite playing important roles in the conflicts involving Canada. Veteran Jan Ritchie says while Canada has come a long way, there's more that can be done to honor the Indigenous people who fought for the country.
I feel that I lived it, survived it. I kind of feel it's time to help our veterans that are suffering in silence. And believe me, there is a lot of silence out there amongst veterans, and that's my message to them, is to be able to talk about it and feel proud about just being who they are and where they come from.
Attendees were also able to take in an exhibit featuring photos and artifacts from the World Wars. And that's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.